Hi, this is Dee at Aloha, Astro. Let's take a look at the forecast for this new moon in Scorpio, occurring on Wednesday, November 19th and Thursday, November 20th. Reveals secrets, enhances psychic abilities, deepens your awareness of the power of nature, the supernatural, and the unseen, and can activate unexpected paranormal phenomenon or deliver an instant manifestation of your desires in a way that seems eerily magical, as the moon conjunct both the sun and Mercury retrograde in Scorpio sits at the tail of a kite aspect pattern, bisected by an opposition to Uranus retrograde in Taurus, while also engaging in a grand trine, mystic rectangle, and castle aspect patterns, pulling in the assistance and cooperation of Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, Saturn conjunct Neptune, both retrograde in Pisces, Uranus retrograde in Taurus, and Pluto in Aquarius. Venus, the planet of pleasure and desire, in Scorpio, and Mars, a planet of action and desire, in Sagittarius, are bracketing the Moon, Sun, and Mercury, with Venus forming a trine aspect to the North Node in Pisces, and Mars squaring the North Node, awakening the passion, inspiration, and willpower to return to a higher purpose, reclaim your power, or rediscover the depths of intimacy. Many people who have been feeling on hold, alienated, or lonely will see signs of the tide turning. And while Chiron retrograde in Aries participates in a T-square aspect pattern with Jupiter in Cancer and Pluto in Aquarius, it is important to focus on what you want, not what you don't want, no matter how impossible or irrational your desire or vision may seem, because the opposition of the Sun, Moon, and Mercury to Uranus retrograde in Taurus is waiting like a wild card or the ace up your sleeve to turn luck and the game of manifesting in your favor, if you can accept that you already have what you seek and can turn your attention away from the have-not point of view. Any meditation, ceremony, ritual, or intention setting you deliberately perform at this new moon can be empowered by inviting in and honoring nature, the elements, your guides, angels, ancestors, and any other spiritual beings or positive energy you feel drawn to connect with. Scorpio rules the 8th house of sex, death, taxes, metaphysics and the occult, investments, insurance, inheritances, and merged assets or shared values in serious business and personal relationships. Many people will initiate a cycle of going in deeper in love, business, or finance, no matter what house, area of life this lunation visits in their natal chart. But if the new moon in Scorpio reveals a difference in values too large to bridge between two individuals or an individual and a larger group, then a separation or a clean break may be the best option to clear space for something or someone new to quickly fill the vacuum. Be aware that not just Mercury, but also Chiron, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus are all retrograde, indicating that whatever you communicate to others now might be difficult to take back or reverse later. But if you are ready for a reset and a grand reopening in some area of your life, the planets will help you as you set your intention to help yourself. Seek the fulfillment of your dreams and desires, and you will have more to share with others. Let's take a look at the overall pattern that we have going on in the sky. I did not mention in that forecast there that we also have a Thor's hammer going on with the Moon, Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter in Cancer and Chiron in Aries. This is kind of like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So do what you want. Do what is best for you. And there may be others who would be examining that very closely and, maybe out of their own insecurities or jealousy, coveting, what you have, wishing deep down inside that they could be like you are. But in the meantime, what they're expressing might be, like the sour grapes, like, oh, well, I could have done blah, 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 but, and making the excuses or justifications for why they are not. Meanwhile, being critical of you for doing what they don't have the courage in themselves to do, what they maybe truly desire, but will not acknowledge that desire and go after what they truly want. So they may point their finger at you and say, oh, well, you're just being mercenary, or you're just being this or that, or selfish, when actually this new moon is giving us a lot of good reasons to be selfish. But the improvement of the self, the coming into alignment and harmony with whatever your highest vision or expression is, to be more, to have more, how is that detrimental to anybody else if you are your best self and you have more to share with others? That is really what, coming to that point, is going to be what tips things over and gets you unstuck and gets you what you want, or sometimes something better. And in your manifestation practices right now, be sure to include that little disclaimer at the end that you want this or something better, because there is a larger, spiritual overseeing going on at the moment with the North Node in Pisces, Saturn and Neptune also there in Pisces. They're loosely conjunct that North Node, but they are playing into the entire castle pattern, or envelope as it's called, where we have it at the peak of, we have Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node at the peak of that castle slash envelope, also part of the grand trine in the water element, which always enhances manifestation and flow because we're dealing with all that water being in harmony. If you have water sign placements in your chart, you might find that you are super sensitive right now, more psychic, more emotional, just more of that watery nature is coming through, where the boundaries dissolve and you can empathize, sympathize, intuit, use that telepathic energy. Great deal of psychic ability is accessible for anybody right now. Even if your chart is totally devoid of any water placements whatsoever, you probably still may find things in houses 4, 8, or 12, which are ruled by Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So while we've got that Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces energy activated now, we also have house issues illuminated by the planets that are sitting in those water signs. And take a look at your own houses 4, 8, and 12 in your natal chart. See what you have there, see what's transiting there. Visit my site, schedule an appointment if you want to know what's going on in your own natal chart with this very busy sky and a very potent new moon. And I know that many people look at retrograde time periods as, oh, stop, drop, and roll, play dead, don't do anything. It's retrograde season. There's always a divine purpose and pattern behind retrograde planets. They give you a chance to go back over things and to pay more attention to the energy of those planets, the sign they're in, the house they're moving through. They are basically demanding more of your attention and saying, hey, look, you really have to look at what? Well, Mercury, thoughts, communication, plans. What's going on in your head? What are you saying to other people? Then we've got Saturn and Neptune. Saturn, the realist, Neptune, the idealist. They came out of Aries, where they entered for the first time together during the summer, late spring, early summer, and now we have them both in retrograde and back into Pisces. Is there anything lingering from last year or the previous years that you're not ready to throw it all out, but maybe it's a dream you weren't able to accomplish. Maybe it's a plan you had, but you got sidetracked. Maybe you didn't take something seriously enough and you didn't have enough preparation, enough foundation under you to make that happen. It may be that it's time to get back to that and pick up where you left off, or do it in a new and improved way. Or maybe you are now wiser, smarter, more willing to make the commitment to follow through on that dream or plan. Uranus retrograde. Well, we got a big switch up in energy in July when it came out of Taurus and went into Gemini. I believe it was July, around the 7th. And now it's retrograding back into Taurus. Maybe time to look at values and money again. Taurus rules the second house of self-worth, self-esteem, personal values, personal finances. No matter where it's transiting in your natal chart, whatever house, you're still going to have overtones of money and values going on. And the idea of the future, uniqueness, individuality, change, the breaking up of patterns, and the Taurus Scorpio axis, the opposition going on here. What Taurus and Scorpio communicate back and forth to each other has a lot to do with values, but also issues surrounding trust. It is the trust axis. So with the potential for sudden reversal of, well, fame, fortune, as well as your values, where you share them with others or do not, there could be some sort of a make or break sudden shift in consciousness or in materiality. It could be either or. And of course, wherever your consciousness is, and whatever you are seeing as, well, Taurus says, I have. And this is where the have or have not energy is in my forecast, to basically look at that opposition, which is contained within this mystic rectangle. And if you want to have more or be more, as is indicated by the other opposition of Jupiter and Pluto in a T-square with Chiron in Aries, this all comes down to you, like nobody else. It might be nice to be with somebody else, to receive some support from somebody else, but you're also not going to hold on to something or someone if you cannot already know that you have that, or that you can be that on your own, that nobody's going to give you something that you don't already have, which is kind of a paradoxical thing. But within a mystic rectangle, there's always some sort of a paradox going on as the sextiles and the trines box in the incredible tension that occurs with those two oppositions crossing each other. It does give a kind of mystical ability to just keep moving forward and making the lemonade out of the lemons. While other people might say, no, no, that can't happen, you can't do that. Where there is a will, you will find a way. And once you put the energy into motion, emotion, energy into motion, it will happen. And once you get busy doing that, you might find the detractors coming out, and the naysayers and the critical looky-loos just watching you saying, no, no, they won't get what they want, or what's their motive for doing that? The suspicious or the skeptical. Usually when there's a Thor's hammer, you're going to get some sort of people watching you and wondering what you're up to, or being disturbed by the fact that you are a powerful being. And what you're really doing is reflecting back to them that, yeah, they could have this power. They're just choosing not to. So it does make you a magnet right now, and that can be for good things, but there will also be some people, because of this T square, who are not all that happy if you are a powerful being. Don't make yourself small for others. Do not do that. In fact, that's part of the lesson here of the sesqui-square with the South Node in Virgo, sesqui-square to Pluto in Aquarius. Um, don't make yourself too small for others, and don't go running around fixing up other people's problems. That's disempowering. Let them figure out their own stuff. That's part of what Pluto in a semi-square to the North Node and sesqui-square to the South Node in Virgo is conveying that lesson. Um, of course, if you want to be a giver, giving from the heart, and it's the right thing at the right time, fine. But if you're also using that energy of, well, I have more, so I'm going to give, and using it to manipulate or to make yourself look grand, well, then that's going to bite you in the butt too. That won't work out in the long run. Some interesting patterns, very interesting patterns. I think the biggest thing is do not be afraid to work with energy, to expand your energy field, to open up to, well, deeper experiences in not just this material 3D realm, but other realms and with other consciousness that's accessible. Because this does kind of open up some pretty powerful direct lines if that's your intention. It probably won't just happen to you out of the blue, although sometimes, we can have one of those momentous, life-changing, oh my gosh, I'll never forget the day I saw that UFO, or I, whatever it is, encountered an angel, spontaneously channeled. There can be any number of things that could occur with the fact that we have growth and change and the unusual, the empowerment, um, the reality and the fantasy. We've got other realms and the accessibility to them indicated all over the place. If you open up and accept that energy or want to merge, then you can be there, you can go there, you can influence, and you can also be easily influenced by others right now, which is why it is very important to focus on the self and to strengthen your own perceptive abilities, your own self-worth, so that you will instinctually know what is good for you and what is not good for you. And you can cut to the chase and get rid of a lot of the drama. Although there's a lot of intensity right now, it is also about maintaining a control over that energy without playing into any manipulation or drama tactics that you might encounter with others as well. So, being self-contained even while you are engaging with somebody else and listening to what your intuition and your instincts are telling you, learning to protect your energy field, work with energy. Those things are all here at this new moon in Scorpio. And on the material level, well, maybe there'll be more money or more sex in your life if you're looking for either of those things, because Scorpio and the 8th house. But again, is that what you want, or are you unconsciously putting up blocks and basically perpetuating some of your limitations. So think on that. And let's take a look at the Sabian symbol 4. We round up to 28 degrees of Scorpio, the king of the fairies approaching his domain. I thought this was kind of funny because I picked an image for the day that has the fairy, what is it, the fairy of the moon or something? Let's see. What's the title of this? The Fairy of the Moon. I just felt like there was something rather magical and the ability for manifestation to happen quite suddenly right now if you can get out of the way, if you can open up to the other energy available to you and make your focus be on the having, then in comes the magic. And let's see what it says here. The king of the fairies approaching his domain. The capacity in man to recognize and to pay homage to an integrating principle at the core of all existence. The integration. This rather peculiar picture tells us perhaps a good deal about the limitations of the mind of the clairvoyant who saw it, though it can be related to the symbolism of the various creatures of a spirit world mentioned in some alchemical and Rosicrucian books. What seems to be implied is that beyond both outer nature and the realm of the proud ego, a spiritual world exists to which the intuitive consciousness of man can pay allegiance. In that world, all manifested entities are seen as multiple aspects of a central power and consciousness. It is such a central principle of unity that human societies have sought to revere symbolically in all too human kings. In an individual sense, this principle is the self. This is the third stage in the 48th fivefold pattern of symbols. It adds a new dimension to the two preceding ones. At this stage, the presence of a spiritual unifying factor begins to be sensed by the individual, perhaps weary of the outer shows of his culture. An inner allegiance begins to polarize the consciousness. Very interesting. A lot to think on in that too. I feel like it does very much highlight the strong Scorpio energy that we have here and this kite, particularly with the opposition bisecting it with Uranus and Taurus. And then we do come down to the self, the Aries energy here, Chiron in Aries. And this would be the greater mankind and society, Pluto in Aquarius, and then Jupiter in Cancer, which is much more one-on-one energy, the nurturing and the symbiosis and sharing. And Chiron here, also in that Thor's hammer. What do you give and what do you gain? Where are you willing to enter into that unity and merge and let your defenses down? Or where are you putting down further boundaries? But a very interesting Sabian symbol. And it does mention, that other realm, which is distinctly what I saw looking at the chart and what I went looking for in an image. I think I put crescent moon, fairy, because I felt like the fairy energy was very much that Neptune and Saturn in Pisces interacting with the Scorpio Sagittarius that we have going on in the other corner. So definitely do have a little ceremony or ritual today, tomorrow. The new moon is occurring at 1:47 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. But all day today, it's basically there. And those new moon intensity, thoughts, feelings will grow as the day goes on. Once we get further into tomorrow, things will dissipate a bit. So we'll be past the new moon, by 2 a.m. And then we're at such late degree that it won't be long before we are moving on into Sagittarius, and the moon will be joining Mars, and the action follows. The decision may come about, the triggering of whether it's the lesson learned or getting back on a path, maybe getting a more clearly defined idea of how you do need to go beyond a comfort zone and how that looks and what you're going to do in your next steps. So I would say aim for your new moon, focus on writing, manifesting, having your fire or your little altar or whatever you're going to do. Do it this afternoon, this evening, the very early morning hours, and then let it go, release it to the universe, see what the universe delivers. Use that little disclaimer, for the highest good of all, and this or something better, so that you cover all your bases and keep the door open for that unseen energy to work on your behalf. Okay, enjoy your new moon in Scorpio. Take care, stay safe, and I'll be back again tomorrow, or actually day after tomorrow on the 21st.